Chris B, welcome to the show. It's great to visit with you guys.
Thanks for having us again.
Thanks,
Love to
Cable,
be
for
on
having
here.
me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you told me off there y'all are both out west. So whereabouts?
Well, I'm in Colorado today, and I'm meeting with a coalition of folks that we work with regularly. I'm on a weekly call with them, but it's the same folks who helped defeat Prop 127, which
Okay.
is the mountain lion ban last year on the ballot. So,
Yeah. So is Dan going to be there?
yeah, Dan will be here. Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, Dan's a good dude. Uh, Big fan of everything they did over there. Coloradans for responsible wildlife management was certainly instrumental, as was SCI and some other groups. But really, I was surprised. I like just historically going back and looking at that after the way the ballot box went with wolves. I was like, oh, we're going to lose this. That was my general attitude. I'm glad I was proven wrong. That was a huge win for us because, man, if Colorado would have fallen, the dominoes don't stop there. Look at New Mexico is going to follow suit, and then before you know it, like, what states will you be allowed to manage mountain lions in the West?
Right. I had a good feeling about it. We had done a lot of work leading up to it. I was watching the polling, so
Yeah,
it turned out great.
yeah. I guess I was just being pessimistic because
Mm.
of their recent history, and just I honestly just I don't trust a blue state to make a sound scientific decision when it comes to wildlife management. When you let the population vote on it, right?
Right. I think that, Colorado is a bit of an anomaly. Sure, it's purplish.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get rural and it's people will vote the right way. They voted the right way,
Yeah.
obviously. I think the only county that we lost was like Denver,
Mm-hmm.
really. And so when you look back, and there were a couple of other things on the ballot, I think in Denver that helped us to swing some votes, like the slaughterhouse ban and the fur ban, no using, like you couldn't use fur for jigs for fishing, right?
Right.
Making
There's a lot of
lures,
fly fishermen in Colorado.
right? And that's just crazy. That's next level crazy.
Yeah.
So no felt hats, no felt cowboy hats. When people look at all that and then they add in the mountain lion thing, it helps sway a decision on some of those folks. So
Yeah.
it turned out really well.
So as far as the meeting, and why you're there right now, what is going on in Colorado? I mean, the antis don't all of a sudden just be like, "Oh, we concede, you won."
No, no, there's IP 98, which is sitting out there. It's the next rendition of ballot box biology, and it's a rewilding. It's really vaguely written, and it's like if the wildlife commission can't do their job, then this alternative wildlife commission can exist, and they can rewild,
Do
like
their
introduce
job.
giant predators, right? And I was like, it's just crazy. So they don't stop. It's nonstop. The coalition I work with, we're in our, it's a planning retreat for us.
Uh-huh.
So we get together in person a couple times a year and we're making our plans for the legislature and what's happening in the commission. And it's coincides with the state fair. So that's down in Pueblo. So I'm headed towards Pueblo in a little bit. I'm in Colorado Springs right now, but
Uh-huh.
drive down there this morning. And then because the state fair is there, legislators and elected officials show up there, and there's a commission meeting tomorrow. And so we'll also, besides our planning retreat, we'll also hold a reception tonight that invites those folks to come and meet us.
Okay. Right on. Now, and for some reason in my head, I think you're either based out of Nebraska or Kansas.
Kansas, yes,
Kansas.
based out of Kansas.
I knew it was one of those two. Yeah.
Flyover states. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying, Cable?
Uh-huh. And B, you're in Montana, but where are you? Where are you actually from?
Yeah, so I live and work out of Alabama. So I cover the eastern half of the country for SCI, doing kind of the state government relations, similar to Chris, working with elected officials at the state level, and then as well as the state wildlife agency people as well. So yeah, kind of encroaching on Chris's territory this week in Montana, kind of dividing and conquering, going. Actually, going on the federal side, almost most of my work's on the state level. Obviously, we have an office there in Washington D.C. and do a lot of work on the federal level as well, and representing SCI at a PAC trip out here with a handful of members of Congress um, that we support and some of our champions there in Washington D.C.
Okay. And where in Montana are you?
Right now, I'm in Missoula. I'm headed north, going to Whitefish
Hmm.
for the next 2 days here.
Okay. Right on. So what are you guys? What's the first thing y'all are gonna be hunting this season? What are you
Well,
looking
I
forward
just
to?
got back from South Africa.
Oh, you
So,
did?
like, yes,
Yeah.
week and a
Oh,
half ago.
nice. Well, I knew that you've been before. We've talked about that.
Yep.
Now, did you take your wife with you on this trip, or is just
Yep.
you? Okay.
No, my wife and my brother and I went. My brother bought a hunt at the Minnesota SCI Expo, and it was like for 4 hunters. And
Hmm.
so it was his first trip to Africa. And so we went and did a plains game hunt with him. And I focused on the southern spiral slam. So
Okay.
I shot a kudu, an eland, a bushbuck, and
Inyala.
Yala. And then I also shot a blessed buck.
Nice.
Yeah, it
Awesome.
was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
just took
wasn't
my
planning on
son.
doing it.
I just took my son in June, and he's 12, and I mean, just wide-eyed and taking everything in. I think one of the coolest things for him, though, he's obsessed with soccer. He plays club soccer, and we went to a rural school there, and like the kids, like a kid his age, 13-year-old boy, was playing soccer in pink, like Uggs looking boots. He's like, why does he have those on? I'm like, well, son, that's all he has. We have it pretty good in America. And I
Right.
think that perspective that left an impression on him. Plus, he liked playing soccer. But to see, and the reason we went there is because hunters are going to put in a new kitchen. They basically have an old shipping container that they use as their kitchen, and we're going to build them an actual building with a proper kitchen, and then we're going to upgrade. When I say a soccer field, they don't have a soccer field. They have some dirt, and they have a
Right.
couple sticks set up as goals. We're going to put in actual goals, and then they want to have a garden. The problem is the kudu come in and just destroy it, so they can't grow any vegetables. So they're going to put a high fence around the school to keep the kudu from crushing their garden every night. But just to see what the investment hunters are making in the rural community there, I think that gave my son a little perspective. And a 12-year-old hears hunting is conservation. Well, what does that really mean to a 12-year-old
Right.
kid, right? But when you see it firsthand, I think it was pretty validating for him to be like, yes, this is awesome stuff that hunters are doing here in Africa. So, B, have you been over there? I'm assuming you
Never
have.
been. I've not been to
You haven't.
Africa. It's high on the list. So I'm actually my first hunting of this season will be the other way. I'll be shooting doves somewhere down south. So
Yeah.
not Labor Day weekend, but the following weekend I'll be shooting doves in Alabama.
I think it's not dove's not my favorite thing to hunt. It's my favorite day of the year though.
Oh
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
No doubt about it.
Kicking off the fall season. But typically maybe a little hotter than it should be. But college football's around. Doves
Yeah.
have a good time. So I agree.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay. So let's transition into a recent meeting with Secretary of Interior Burgum. We tried to get we tried to have a working relationship with Deb Howland. It seemed, kind of pointless. She wouldn't commit to a no net loss policy on hunting. Uh, but you guys have a direct line of communication with Secretary Burgum. So what was that meeting like?
Well, so actually, that was my first time at Interior, which is kind of neat just to
Uh-huh.
go in. But you
You
walk
mean you
in,
didn't get an invite the last 4 years?
I did not get an invite the last 4 years.
Got lost in the mail.
Yeah.
But when we went to meet with the Secretary Burgum, and we went to meet with the Fish and Wildlife Service, and Brian Nesbitt actually started Monday, who's the new Fish and Wildlife Service Director. I don't. My alarm is going off in the building
Oh.
in the hotel. I don't know what's
I
going
can't
on.
I can't hear it. It's all
Yeah,
good.
we actually can't hear it.
Hope you're okay.
It's telling me I have to exit the building. This is great. All right. Can you hear that?
Uh-uh.
Oh, it's like a huge alarm going off
Huh.
now. I'm gonna have to switch to my phone and walk outside, apparently. I don't know
Okay.
what's happening.
All right. No worries.
Apologies. We can come back.
Yeah, these things happen.
All right.
All right. We'll see you. Just log back in.
Okay.
All right. B and I will talk about bears.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay. So we'll sort that out,
Yeah.
and I'll figure that out in editing. But all right. B, let's talk about some exciting news out of the state of Florida, which, as a Texan, I love all of the southern U.S.
Yep.
And I think if I didn't live in Texas, I could live in Florida for sure.
Yep.
Love that state. Love to go fishing there more than anything.
Sure.
But we had some great news from a science-based conservation angle, and I'm talking about a bear hunt, which
Yep.
Florida has a pretty robust black bear population. I don't know if that's common knowledge, but they have a lot of bears.
Yep.
And we had a season in 2015. It was very controversial. Um, I forget what the quota was, but they hit the quota and I think actually exceeded it in like 2 days.
Yeah, they essentially went over. I don't know that it went over the total quota. They blew past one zone, blew past the quota pretty quickly. So 2015, they implemented a season, and that was the first season since '92. So they hunted up until I can't remember when it started, but they closed it in '92, and then it remained closed until 2015. They brought it back for 1 year, and then one zone went over pretty quickly within a day or 2 days, and that was primarily because of how they did tags and reporting. So
Mm-hmm.
they had instead of a lottery like hard, what they call a hard tag quota system, this time where they know exactly how many permits were available and will be issued this coming December for the hunt that was just approved, which is 187, which is very minimal total.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 2015,
I saw
they
that's like 4 or 5% of their
yeah, it's less than
population.
5% of the total population. And most states that want to try and control bear populations, at least keep it level, they aim for 20% offtake or 20% harvest. So the goal from the FWC is really just to slow population growth, and at that clip, they'll definitely do that. 100 if all tags are filled, and then they projected, just to be as conservative as possible, all 187 of those bears would be female, which is pretty much impossible. But they did that as just like a conservative effort to ensure the population still grows, just at a slower clip.
Yeah.
So 2015, they had a little bit different. I can't exactly remember how the zones were set up, but one zone in particular, which really goes to show the abundance of bears, um, went over pretty quickly. But that was done like kind of how it's done in different places out west, where it was over the counter. Anybody could buy a tag, 24 hours to report. Once they hit that number, they'd close either that zone or the whole season. So there was a lot of effort early,
Mm.
because anybody could buy and apply and get a tag, and then um, because of that effort and the number of bears, they hit it pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
set up differently. Yeah, 2015 was short lived and, like you said, somewhat controversial. But it's been a decade since there's been a regulated bear season in the state of Florida.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Florida has big bears too. North Carolina has a ton of huge bears,
Yep.
and I always just believe like it has to be because these bears don't hibernate, um, and they just eat all year instead of losing. What your bear goes into hibernation, loses like 30 to 40% of its body weight. These bears just put on the feed bag all year long.
Yeah, there's some big bears there. I mean, they're kind of there's 7 subpopulations in Florida, and then there's 4 bear management units that they're gonna have divide these 187 tags up. So you think about it that way, 4 units. I can't remember the exact breakdown, but 187. Obviously, it's not equal how they've divided it up, but some will have more than others. But yeah, there can be some pretty big ones. They are. They've certainly their range has expanded dramatically. So over the last 20 years, their population's doubled in Florida, and then one of the more important parts is their range. So the coverage area in the state, their range has tripled in the last
Hmm.
20 years. So just where bears are in the state of Florida has tripled and grown dramatically, as well as the number of bears. And then you add on top of that just the sheer human population growth in Florida. You're gonna have these human bear conflicts. That's what we've seen. We've seen bears in the surf, on 30A in the Panhandle there. We've seen bears in their Orlando airport, Disneyland. We're seeing bears where they shouldn't be
Right.
in unsuitable habitat. So um, certainly habitat dependent as far as to your point, kind of size and weight. Um, but there are a lot of them, and there's that growth we're seeing impacting the people of Florida.
Hmm. Well, so this is a huge win, but it was, it was met with a bunch of angst from the usual suspects. Uh, but I saw the commissioners voted 5-0, so it was unanimous. They're
Yep.
like, we're going to follow science. We don't
Yep.
care what you morons say. But I'm sure Defenders of Wildlife, and I know Sierra Club was there. Didn't Sierra Club historically used to be like have a pro hunting angle to it?
I don't know. I'm not not in the last 15 years for sure, but I don't know.
Right.
Maybe before that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, when I went and spoke at Texas Parks and Wildlife uh, Commission meeting, we had this group that was trying to like protect lions, mountain lions, Texans for mountain lions. This is probably 3 summers ago. It was Sierra Club, you know, and Defenders of Wildlife and
Right.
Center for Biological Diversity, and of course PETA and HSUS. I'm sure all of the same people, the same groups were there, and they all spoke, right?
Yeah, there was 168 people that spoke a week ago today. Last Wednesday was the vote, and then the preliminary approval was back in May. So just shy of a year-long process to get here. So December 24, the commission and the Chairman Rodney Beretta, basically asked for like an update. So they gave an update of bears in Florida, and obviously they're still managing them, even though they were still recognized as a game species, but they were still um, managing them just without a hunt. And so they gave an update, and then they asked to come back with various proposals on if there were to be a hunt and if there needed to be a hunt. And so, to your point earlier, that's where the science came into play. Some of the best of the best down at FWC, George Worthen and Morgan Richardson and their team down there, and Mike Orlando just do a great job, and really presented it factually to the commissions like, hey, here's what we got. Here's the number of bears. Here's how it breaks down. Here are the subpopulations. If we were to have a hunt, here's what it could look like. Here are the parameters, the tags, the tag system, seasons. And they looked at everything. They did a really good job presenting the facts to the commission, and let them make the decision. And it, again, preliminary approved in May. And then last week ago today, on August 13th, was the final approval that will allow for a bear season starting this December 25. They'll be the first season.
Okay. Um, we lost that. We had that one season in 2015.
Yep.
It was successful, very successful, very quickly. Why do we not have one in 2016? And I mean, we know the answer, but is that a threat for having another season in 2026?
Well, they just filed an administrative appeal to your point about the anti, so they're trying anything and everything to stop the hunt. They just filed an administrative appeal, I think, earlier this week. So we'll see where that goes. We don't think they have the standing or the ground to really stop the process, but they're going to try and gum it up as much as they can. And kind of I mentioned earlier, the biggest um, wrinkle in 2015, one of the things that was most impactful for stopping the season was the overage.
Yeah.
And so there's no possible way that they can go over the 187 quota this year just because of hard tag. So, us 3 non-residents put in, apply, I get one, y'all don't. y'all can't go, I can go, and I may harvest one, I may not. But if I did, tag it, report it, all that good stuff. But there's only 187 people that will be able to
Yeah.
go hunt bears legally in Florida. And again, they baked in some extra controls with that number is very low. And they're obviously professionals, so they're thinking about vehicle mortality and anything else that could impact population. So there's no chance that number that they go over that number.
There's no chance they hit the number either. Really, you're not going to have
Yeah, I mean, 100%
100%.
success will be tough, and then like I said, 100% female mortality is basically zero. And
Yeah.
so it's still the number of bears. People, the general public will have no idea that there was a hunting season. They will see like basically no significant difference in the population of bears. It's just
No,
like it's a control
4%,
method.
4 or 5%. Your population is still going to trend upward at that harvest
Yeah, the
level.
three of the four, I mentioned earlier, there's 7 kind of subpopulations. There's 4 bear management units that they're hunting them in. So 3, if they were less than 2% growth in those subpopulations, they took them out. They're not hunting there, period. So those 3 are already removed. So now you have 4 subpopulations. One's growing at like a less than like a 2.5, 2.8% clip. That's mainly due to infanticide. So that just shows you how many bears are there. So
Mm.
they're killing their own there in that region. And then the other 3, two are growing over 12% per year. So those populations are growing over 12% per year. The other one's growing over 15% per year.
Mm.
So those subpopulations are exploding, and FWC is just looking, hey, how can we slow this down just a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, kudos to them for the unanimous decision. That's pretty hard to refute as an anti. I was like, well, we didn't even have one dissenter on the commission. Like
Yeah,
it's pretty damning
yeah,
in our
yeah,
favor. So, and this is great because this is the second time in I can't remember if Louisiana had their first season a year ago or 2 years ago, but Maria Davidson with the SCIF Foundation, a large carnivore program leader, was instrumental in getting Louisiana their first season in, I think it was since like the 80s or something. It's been a long time.
yeah.
So another big win for science-based bear management.
Yeah, Maria's been great. Like you said, large carnivore specialist for the foundation, and she's a part of in Florida they have what they call the TAG, the Technical Advisory Group. So she's a part of the Bear TAG down in Florida. Obviously, very knowledgeable and smart on the issue. Was able to do some TV and radio and newspaper interviews for us. I did a few as well, but obviously her expertise there and super knowledgeable and been involved on the bear issue really across the country and other countries as well. So having her be able to chime in and support that and refute some of the kind of ridiculous arguments from the antis from the science-based side was super helpful, and we're glad to have her on board.
Mm-hmm. This isn't like this is probably the only time I got sideways with Maria. I told her I don't want bears on my deer lease. Like I don't want to deal with that. I don't want a 300-pound raccoon trying to mess up all my stuff. But
The deer hunters in Florida definitely have them. Their trail cams and feeders and everything else. So
yeah, but we're starting to see more bears show up in West Texas. There's people are starting to get more and more photos of them. I don't know if it will. I mean, I'm 7 hours from there. I don't know that it will affect me in my lifetime. But bears are cool. But certainly a headache for if you're trying to hunt whitetails and I don't think there's a feeder a bear can't get into.
Yeah,
It
they
wants
definitely
to.
can destroy them. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well that's cool. Hopefully because the pressure is going to come. The antis are going to see all these photos. They're going to be anytime they see a dead bear photo on Instagram or social media or wherever, it'll be plastered all over everywhere. They're going to make this into a big ordeal. So we'll see if the commission has the stones to run it back. I mean, it's a lot of heat. Like I get it. It's a headache.
Sure.
People don't want to deal with that blowback.
Sure.
But they know that their bear population is increasing, and that's bad for human conflict. human
Yeah, I mean,
wildlife conflict.
we've seen the human conflict explode. The unfortunate reality of the first bear fatality ever in the state of Florida.
Oh yeah, that was
Really,
recent. That was like
that
what, a
was
week or two ago?
that was right before the last meeting. So that was like early May,
Okay.
literally a week or two before the May meeting. And then in between that fatality and the May FWC meeting, there was another attack that was not fatal. It was just an attack, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Um, so again, it's hard to refute the facts and reality of too many bears in the landscape, impacting, an increasing human wildlife conflict there. So I mean, again, it's the reality, and it's unfortunate, highly unfortunate, in that situation. But yeah, it's that's kind of where they're at down there, and I think FWC recognizes that. Again, the science was rock solid, and the FWC staff did a great job. And so, we'll see what happens in December. Highly regulated. They did approve some alternatives, and so part of that, there is archery is a legal method of take. They will allow
Hounds.
well, yeah, hounds. So they'll do a training. Hounds would be 27.
Okay.
So they would do basically like phase it in so that the houndsmen down there would be able to train their dogs
Okay.
appropriately. So they did a good job there of saying, hey, this is a great method, but also let's do it, phase it in and do it appropriately. And then they allowed for over feed stations as well, or bait
Mm.
stations. And so again, with a hard cap quota 187, now you don't have this derby style hunt. If you have a tag, you have a tag, you can go. And now you can be more selective on, hey, there's an old boar. I'd like to, that would be a good harvest. Again, no bears period over 100 pounds. So no cubs, no sows with cubs. Neither of those are allowed. And so ideally hunters, they'll have, those 3 weeks in December this year that could be expanded in the future. They basically approved October to December, not the whole thing, but they'll be able to decide each year when they
Mm.
want to have the season during that time frame. And this year is obviously just December. But hunters, because of those parameters, will be able to be more selective in their harvest as well.
Mm. You saw recently I think it was like HB 4422, might be off on the number, but the Don't Feed the Bears Act
Yeah,
of
yeah,
2025.
yeah,
So essentially, some leftists wanted to ban baiting on all federal land.
yeah,
Well, what people don't realize is baiting is a massive management tool. Much like
yeah,
hounds, the same way you put a mountain lion up a tree, you can sex it, you can age it, you
yep,
know what you're shooting before you pull the trigger. And baiting is kind of the same thing for bears. It's a wonderful management tool. And there's actually 7 states. I looked up the data. There's 7 states that allow baiting on federal land. That would be a huge, uh, you know, it would have a negative impact for population management. But I don't think that it has legs to go anywhere.
no. It's pretty much DOA is my understanding. Yeah,
Mm.
it doesn't have legs. I think the sponsors from Detroit. I think that's right.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, makes sense.
so I mean, it's just something that
But
that's going
20
anywhere.
years ago, would we have said a potential mountain lion ban in Colorado was that we would have looked at that and been like, that's DOA. So these all of these start out that way,
Right.
and then one day they're not.
Yeah. It's
So
kind of cool.
we do. I mean, we do need to monitor those. Even though they don't have legs initially, but it kind of tells you this is where their mindset is.
Sure.
So better pay attention. Okay, well, cool stuff on the Florida front. And you mentioned you could put in, so non-residents I could put in, Chris could put in.
Non-residents can apply. I believe it's $5 to apply non-res or res. Also think there's not a cap on the number of times you can apply. I'm pretty sure that's fact.
Mm-hmm.
But if Florida resident gets drawn, it's $100 for Florida resident, and then non-resident, if you get drawn, it's $300 for the tag, and then I believe there's just a additional hunting license as well.
Mm-hmm.
So still, I mean, good, decent amount of money, but still, cheaper compared to other states. And then certainly the FWC will be using those dollars to continue with their bear management program.
Okay, perfect. Well, awesome news on that front. Let's go back to Chris and the recent meeting with Secretary Burgum. So yeah, so tell us. I guess your alarm went off. You're good. The hotel is not going to burn
Yeah, the
down.
hotel is not on fire apparently. Maybe it is.
Okay.
The alarm stopped and I was like, I guess I don't have to leave. So I hopped back on.
Yeah. So where we left off, you guys, you had just, well, you got invited, basically,
Yep.
which
Yep.
is a nice change of pace from the Secretary of the Interior's office, from where we were to where we are now. So yeah. So what was Doug like, and what did we lay out from a science-based management? I guess our mandate, but how was that received?
So, as I was saying before, Brian Nesbitt starts this week. So we met with Jay Shirley, who's the principal deputy director for the Fish and Wildlife Service, and he used to be the Utah Fish and Wildlife director. And so I had a relationship with him prior from my last job where I worked as Kansas Wildlife and Parks chief attorney. And so I had known him in that circle. And then that carried over to here. And same with Brian. I know Brian. So I'm happy to have a director on who came from Wyoming Game and Fish and who's going to champion our causes. So we were trying to set up a meeting with the secretary and got invited to go in. And the first thing we see is a polar bear mount. And it's in the entryway to the Department of Interior, to the secretary's office
I
there.
can't even get one of those.
Right, right. It's pretty cool. And they made a point of saying all the taxidermy had been pulled out in the last administration.
Uh,
And so they were putting taxidermy back in from the storage areas that they had. So that's refreshing for folks
yeah.
like us.
Uh-huh.
Walk in and see the taxidermy of the animals that we help regulate.
Yeah.
And so we went into his office and he's got a North Dakota elk, uh, when he was the governor there that he's got mounted on the wall. So that was pretty cool. He made a of saying that
Uh-huh.
this is my North Dakota elk, and we walked out on there. He has a balcony that kind of overlooks Washington D.C., and so we got to um, take a picture out on that balcony with the Washington Monument behind us to memorialize it. And then we went back in and we started having our conversation. And, our priorities are protect and expand hunting, fishing, uh, modernize ESA, delist grizzly bears and wolves, encourage foreign conservation programs, improve consultation with the states, and then serial litigants, shed some light on serial litigants, like publish the settlement agreement dollars so people know that their tax dollars are being used to settle with these groups like CBDU, sue and settle, and
Yeah.
over a technicality. And that happened a lot in the last administration. There was a spreadsheet that was in the first Trump administration that was published online on those settlement agreements, and it was taken down during the last administration.
So elaborate on that. Basically, organizations like Defenders of Wildlife, CBD, Humane Society, whoever, sue the government, right?
Mhm.
And then they claim that we have to pay for their legal fees
Yes,
when the court case is settled.
yes,
How
yeah,
ridiculous is that?
it's ridiculous. And when you look at modernizing the ESA and some of the deadlines that are a little unrealistic, trying to keep up with the workload and things like that, it's a moneymaker for those groups, because if you don't meet the 12-month deadline, they sue. Of course, the government has to come in and say we couldn't meet the 12-month deadline, and then here's our attorney's fees, and the government has to pay those attorney's fees.
Mm.
It's pretty ridiculous, honestly. And so there are a lot of folks like uh, RMEF we're in discussions with on figuring out a way to limit the Equal Access to Justice Act, uh, to stop that serial litigant money-making strategy, and limit ESA suits like that and recovery of funds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's certainly, when you look at the community, there are a lot of people looking at that issue right now and saying it's ridiculous.
And they sue nonstop. I saw a stat. I don't remember it was over 300. It was between like the main culprits that I've already listed out. Like they have 300 full-time attorneys between a lot
Oh,
of them.
600.
600.
600.
Well, they've got more now, right?
Yeah.
And then how many does SCI have? I know Sportsman's Alliance I think has 2 full-time attorneys.
Right. We've got 10 attorneys on staff, but 3
Okay.
litigators. You
Uh-huh.
know, I'm an attorney,
So
but I do government affairs.
so do the
right?
math. I mean, we're like way undergunned when it comes to that, and so I think that's for one of the reasons why for so long we've been so reactive instead of proactive. It's like we're outgunned. They are spending infinitely much more money than we are, you know. So it's a big task trying to fight them in court when they've got an army of 600 attorneys.
Right. And they also have something in their favor, their tax exempt status as a C3, but we just created a C3 that people can donate to through SCI for litigation. So hopefully that'll start to level that playing field where people
Awesome.
can, you know, it's potentially tax deductible depending on their situation. So
Uh, uh, okay. So overall, very productive initial meeting.
yeah, both the meeting with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and uh, the Secretary of Interior, very productive. We're aligned philosophically on our views on what things should happen. And so it was very good.
Perfect.
Can't, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. To have an actual hunter as the Secretary of Interior is always a plus for us. Um, did you guys talk at all about public land? I know access and hunter opportunity is a big part of SCI's mission statement. Um, and, you know, I'm a conservative. I'm proud to say it. I don't care. But that was a wart that we had recently with, you know, the proposed public land sell off. And, you know, sometimes you got to call a foul on yourself. That wasn't something I was in favor of. Like, I have said, yeah, some of that land probably shouldn't belong to the federal government. Probably should belong to the state of Utah. But I don't trust the government to put the genie back in the bottle and be like, okay, enough's enough. Like, where's the line of demarcation? So for me, fundamentally, I'm just like, no, you just can't sell it. Even though I agree with you, Utah shouldn't be 84% owned by the feds or public land or whatever. How do you grow, right? I mean, you're limiting yourself, and some of that habitat is bad. It's not even suitable for wildlife. Probably should be developed, but I don't believe you can put the genie in the bottle when you start selling it. And I don't know that a lot of people trust, whether it's you're red or blue. Like, do we really trust the government to govern themselves? I don't. So that's my take on it anyway. And so I was vocal about like, no, we can't sell it. I don't know if any of that stuff came up with Secretary Burgum, but I figured I'd ask you anyway.
That did not specifically come up because it had been dealt with, you know, the big, beautiful, one
Yeah.
big, beautiful bill had already passed. And so, you know, kind of an issue in the past. Obviously, SCI opposed the the sale of public property. Um, you know, that's a nuanced issue. I came from a state that's 98% privately owned.
Yeah, same
And
as me, right?
right. And so having worked in the government and dealt with that issue specifically, certainly there are times, like I can think of a specific example where the state was gifted a couple residential lots. And so, but it was along a river. And so we tried to put in a parking lot and a kiosk and a fish cleaning station. And in Kansas, home rule, so we had to get permission from the county to do that. And the neighbors in the residential area, they didn't want that because that was like their private access. They didn't want
Right.
people coming in. And so the county wouldn't let us do it. And so we sold it, put it up for sale, sold it fair market value. And one of the neighbors bought it, and maybe the most hated person in the neighborhood, ironically enough, he bought it and he cut off access to all the other residents. Well, then they went back to the county, and the county said, we're going to condemn it. So they used eminent domain and took it back. And then they came to us and asked us, would you guys put in a kiosk and a fish cleaning station? And we said, no. I mean, that's an example of where the government shouldn't have owned that land. It was a gift, and, you know,
Yeah.
but obviously they're not making any more land. And so once you start divesting of it,
Yeah.
you're not going to get it back. And that's loss of public access.
Mm-hmm.
So nuanced issue.
Yeah,
Got
for sure.
plenty of experience there.
Yeah.
And there's a process already in place
Right.
in which if the federal government wants to divest land, there's a process in which they can do that. And so that wasn't the means in which to do that. And so if they want to go through FLTFA and divest whatever, then go for it, because that's in place already, mechanism to say, hey, here's where we're at, here's what we're thinking, and maybe divest certain areas. But
Mm-hmm.
through how it was trying to be worked through, I think you saw a lot of groups, a lot of our conservation partners came out and said, hey, we oppose this, but also, to your earlier point, Cable, like, if that's the route you want to go, then use this FLTFA that's already in place that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Yeah.
right. There's a mechanism to divest it. The money in the one big beautiful bill wouldn't have gone to conservation. I mean, there were a lot of reasons to oppose it, not necessarily to oppose the sale of public lands. If there's a process and hunters can be engaged, users can be engaged in that process. And the example I just gave you for Kansas, that's, I'm sure there are some federal examples like that where they shouldn't own a piece of property. Doesn't make sense, but they have it, that type of deal.
What about land and water conservation funding? Did I get that right? LW.
Yeah,
LWCF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just seen a bunch of stuff on social media about the threat of robbing, I think, those dollars, which are earmarked for sportsmen, right, for conservation issues. But as far, and you can tell me if this is true or not, but it was like backcountry hunters and anglers saying that this administration is threatening to take those dollars and allocate them elsewhere when they're already they're for sportsmen.
So I've not seen anything from Interior on it that says that they're going to take and transfer money. They were talking about so LWCF, the various bureaus within Interior get an LWCF allotment, right? And then it can be used for whatever. Let's just say the Fish and Wildlife Service was going to use it to purchase some land.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's a completely different discussion as well when we talk about public land, right? We don't want to sell off what we have, but do we need to buy more? And where does it make sense to buy more? Is it adjoining, a currently existing refuge? Like in Kansas, we always had restrictions on purchasing public land. We couldn't buy more than 160 acres. And back in the day when I first started, it had to be within like 1.1 miles of currently existing public land and all sorts of
That
things.
seems stupid to me. Like, why don't we put some public land where there is no public land?
Right. I mean,
personally, I'm like, well, I'd like to have some closer to me. We're going to buy some, put it in my yard, put it in my backyard.
So I guess to the point is there going to be a shift of some funds within Interior? That the argument, or some people are saying that it might go to fund National Park Service backlogs or whatever, if it can legally be used for that. I've not seen anything personally other than what people are posting on social media, which is, as you well know, always the truth on social media.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I did see. So Biden's agenda was 30 by 30, right? The government should own 30% of the land and control 30% of the ocean by 3030. And we had this little refuge out in West Texas called Muleshoe. And it's like, I think it's like 1,200 acres or something. It's not a big refuge. And they wanted to expand that all the way into New Mexico, make it over 1 million acres. And they were just going to buy up private land to do so. Well, the problem with 30 by 30 is like that's not a pro hunt. People don't be confused just because they're buying up this land. It's for rewilding, and it's for green energy, like solar farms, that kind of stuff. So I was very happy to see the Trump administration came out like 2 weeks ago and said, no, we're not doing that. Muleshoe's done. We're not expanding it anymore. And I had talked to these landowners, a couple of them. I'd interviewed them, and the problem is, like, it's the government throws out a big fat number, and then whatever was going on there no longer is. It's just the land is just put into, you know, what its existing use in perpetuity. Like, we're no longer grazing it, for example, right? They don't want to do that. Grazing's bad. So, and if they really, and this is going way down the rabbit hole, but if the government really controlled 30% of our land, how much food production would you lose from cattle and agriculture? And then the government now has more of a grip on the food supply. Like, I just thought it was a horrible deal. It's kind of might be punching out of my weight class here, but
Well, I think that when it was announced, like, people appropriately lost their, minds over it and rose up, and I think that died off pretty quick. Like,
Yeah.
it was, I remember it was like early in the administration when I was still with the state, and we had groups contacting us, like yelling at us, and I'm like, it is not the state of Kansas that's telling you about 30 by 30. And there were meetings. Farm Bureau got some folks whipped up into it, and there were local meetings, and they had asked the department to come and talk, and I was like, we can come and talk, but it's not our program, right? And so I think one thing about the 30 by 30, they had proposed not just ownership, but like conservation easements or whatever, however they were going to get to that number. It wasn't all just pure ownership, but still, when you, especially in the Midwest, from the Dakotas to Texas, when you start talking about government ownership of property, it's a hot button issue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Largely privately owned property in the Midwest and from north to south. And so I think that's spurred a bunch of conversations, and I think that folks realized that they probably were out over ahead of their skis on that thing. So
yeah, well, I was certainly glad to see the mule shoe thing got kiboshed. Burgum is an interesting guy, and he's a hunter. He's a conservationist. He's also pro energy, which I am also those things. Like, I'm not saying sell public land. I am saying we should responsibly have energy production on the land that we own. It should be multi-use. We should graze some of it responsibly as well. Did any of that come up in the meeting?
no, we were in there for about 40 minutes or so.
Okay.
So we didn't have like.
So you're not like
time.
texting him yet? Y'all aren't like best buds?
I think he might be texting Laird. He's not texting me.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of his criticisms from the usual, the BHAs and other organizations like that. This guy's going to just rape and pillage our public land. I don't think you have to rape and pillage to responsibly, have energy production that makes your country wealthier instead of buying it from competitors or even enemies. Like, so I'm a fan of that if we can do it responsibly, which I think in 2025 we can do that for the most part.
Right. We had, when I worked for the state, of course, we had some public land. We owned about 150,000 acres total, and there was energy production on those. Some of it was gifted, some of it was, where the mineral rights were kept, and it was developed, and we worked with it, and it was responsible, and we made sure that things were done right on our property. So, to your point, certainly, I think we can do that.
You know what's ugly? Solar
What's that?
farms on public land.
Yeah.
But there, a lot of people, even hunters, are like, well, solar farms are okay, but you have a problem with oil. Like, I'll tell you right now, one of them takes up a lot more land mass and is a hell of a lot uglier than the other.
Yeah, solar farms are wildlife deserts, right?
Yeah, dude. If you've driven by one, I mean, it's just gross. It's just.
Yep.
As I flew in last night to Colorado Springs, the sun was setting, but I could see solar farm, and there's nothing there. Like, no
Can
wildlife
be.
can live
Yeah.
there.
No.
Yeah.
It's total loss when you put those in. Well, cool. Well, I'm glad that we have an open line of communication with the Secretary of Interior. He's one of us. Very cool stuff, and great to see scientific wildlife management ideology went out in Florida. So big win there, and yeah, I think the future looks bright going forward.
Certainly does.
Convention date, it's in February, coming up.
18 to 21.
Okay. We'll be back in Nashville. This will be our fourth year in a row in Nashville, I believe.
Fourth, yep.
Yeah. Nashville's awesome. I went to the last one in Vegas, and if I had to say, I much prefer Nashville. So
Yeah, Nashville's a much better scenario
Yeah.
for sure.
It's pretty unanimous across the board. There may be a few folks that prefer Vegas, but
those are some seedy individuals. They're just going for the gambling. But no, Nashville takes really good care of us. So I encourage everyone to come out February 18th through the 21st, you said?
Yep.
Save the date for that. And yeah, I'll see you guys both in Nashville. If maybe I'll see you in Dallas too, because we have a show coming up.
OX.
Yeah, and that's in January.
Yeah.
So I'll probably see you both there because I happen to live here. So
Right on.
all right. Well, hey, B, hope you shoot some dove in the face on opening day. I'll be out there
Thanks,
with
man.
the kids. It's going to be a
Appreciate it.
good time. Yeah. Yeah. And then you're going to do whitetail hunting back there in Alabama. What
Yeah,
else do you
season
like to get
starts-
into?
Yeah, our season starts a little later. I'm mainly a turkey and an upland guy, so
Uh-huh.
I will be going actually back out this way in October. I'll drive from Alabama with my dog and spend a little bit of time in the Dakotas chasing some upland game, sharpies and huns and pheasants and maybe some chickens. So that'll be the big trip this fall will be a road trip with the dog to the Dakotas. And then I'll hunt some whitetail. Our season's a little bit later, so our archery coming in October, rifle November, and our rut is pretty late actually, so not till late January or early February. So long season. That I'll get out there. I'll get out there a little bit.
What kind of dog do you have?
He's a small Munsterlander, so versatile.
Munsterlander. I'm not familiar with this breed.
Yeah, they're less common. You see him in the plain states a little bit, and you see him in New England. Long hair, long tail. Looks like a German short hair pointer mixed with like an English setter. So versatile. Actually, kind of started blood tracking and with the German roots, but great dog. Most of his deficiencies are with me, his trainer here. But he's been a lot of fun. He's 6, and so we did it last year and had a really good trip to the Dakotas, and excited to go back and see what we can get into.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I like to see you're probably a little bit younger than me, but I hate to say it, but upland hunting it's a sport that's decreasing in popularity. So when I see someone with a dedicated bird dog, I wish we had more of that. But going back to what Chris said earlier, where he's from, 98% privately owned.
Yep.
Texas, 98% privately owned. Dude, a good quail lease now is more expensive than a whitetail lease.
Yeah.
And so it's just like the younger generation of hunters really are not investing in upland hunting and bird dogs anymore. So we need guys that carry on that tradition.
Yeah, you see it's interesting in the small game, kind of what the normal entree into hunting for the younger generation, whether it's, squirrel or rabbits or upland game. But now the upland population, I mean, it's with Kansas and Texas, it's cool to see kind of the quail rebirth and the numbers kind of being restored. Alabama, deep South, unfortunately, you're not seeing quite as many. There's still some public lands that are managed really well. South Georgia, a few in Alabama. There's a few in every state that do it well, but it's tough, the habitat's changed so much over time to have those true kind of wild quail numbers. But I agree, it's fun to see folks out there working. At the end of the day, it's more of the experience and the dog and the family and all that kind of stuff. So it's cool to see that.
Awesome. Well, hope you have a great trip, Chris. Probably going to get into some whitetail hunting, I assume.
Do a little bit. We covet what we don't have, and I'm blessed with whitetails, so I don't really. That doesn't fire me up all that much.
We do cover what we don't have.
Waterfowl. In October, I'll waterfowl in Canada. I've been doing that for like 20 years, and I'll hunt whitetails, but I've got some crane hunting on the agenda, some upland birding, a good little mix, and I am starting off the season with a dove hunt on the 1st. I've got something lined up, so that'll be good.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it. You can find our website. It is safariclub.org. And join for, I think, as little as $65 a month. If you're not a member, I don't know what you're waiting for. So support SCI, support science-based wildlife management, not just in North America, but across the globe as well. So appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Man.
All right, take it easy.